Alright, welcome back. So in this video we're going to be looking at some composite shapes involving the volume of rectangles and triangular prisms. So let's get started with that right now by looking at A. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of break this up into the volume of two shapes. So let's do the top one as volume 1 and the bottom as volume 2, and then once we're done we'll add them together. So volume 1 is a triangular prism, so it's going to be equal to half times our base, which is 8, times our perpendicular height, which is 2, and then multiplied by the height or length of the prism, which is 10. Now we can simplify this further and we can just do ultimately 4 times 2 times 10, which is just going to be equal to 80 centimeters cubed. Alright, volume 2 is going to be our rectangular prism, so all we have to do for this one is just do our base shape and then multiply by the height, so it's going to be 6 times 8 times 10. And that just equals 480 centimeters cubed. So our total volume of this composite shape is going to be 80 plus 480, which is just 560 centimeters cubed. Alright, let's do B. Right, for B, what we have is a same idea, but we'll do it this time volume 1 as the rectangular prism and volume 2 as the triangular one. So volume 1 is just going to be equal to 5 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 3, which is just 20 times 3, which is just 60 centimeters cubed. And volume 2 is going to be equal to, well, we have to identify things. So in this particular situation, our perpendicular height is going to be equal to 4, and our base length is just going to be equal to 5. So volume 2 is going to be 1/2 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 5 multiplied by the depth, and the depth is going to be 4. Alright, so ultimately you can simplify this down by doing half times 4, so it'll be just 2 times 5 times 4, which is just going to be ultimately going to be 40. So it'll be 2 times 5 times 4 if we multiply this half into that 4, and that equals 10 times 4 or 40 centimeters cubed, which means that the total volume is going to be equal to 40 plus 60. These two values here, which is just equal to 100 centimeters cubed. Now, it's a little bit tricky, but you should always consider these as the perpendicular height of the shape we're looking at. Sometimes they're a little bit off, but most of the time they're fine. Alright, if we look at C, we have 3 different shapes. We have 2 triangular prisms, and then we have a rectangular prism. So let's do this as volume 1. This is volume 2, and this is volume 3. So volume 1 is a triangular prism, so we're going to do 1/2 multiplied by the base, which is 10, multiplied by the height, which is 3, multiplied by the length, which is going to be 14. Alright, so once we've done that, we can do the basic calculation. And that's going to be V is equal to, well, we'll keep the 10, we'll get rid of the 7. So this is going to be equal to, if we multiply the half into the 14, it will be equal to 7 times 3 times 10, which is just equal to 21 times 10, which is just equal to 210 meters cubed. Now if we look at volume 2, we've got our rectangular prism, so that's pretty easy to calculate. It's going to be 2 times 10 times 14. Alright, so that equals 280 meters cubed. Easy way to do that. 2 times 14 is 28, times 10 is 280. And then volume 3 is our small triangle. And our small triangle is going to be 1/2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 14. So if we multiply the half and the 2 together, we'll just get 1. So this simplifies to 2 times 14, which is just equal to 28 meters cubed. That means that our total volume is going to be equal to 210 plus 280 plus 28, and that just equals 518 meters cubed. Alright, here's a few for you to practice, so just give the video a pause and then give them a go, and then I'll solve them. Okay, let's get started with D. So with D, we've got two shapes. Let's make this volume 1 and this volume 2. So let's get started with our volume 1, which is our triangular prism. It's going to be 1 over 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 12 multiplied by 11. So our volume is actually going to be, if we get rid of these two here, which half of 2 is just 1, so it'll be 1 times something, which is the same as nothing, so it's just going to be 1 multiplied by 12 multiplied by 11, which is the same as 12 times 11. And 12 times 11 is just going to be 132 centimeters cubed. So that's our volume 1. Our volume 2 is just going to be a rectangular prism, so that's just going to be 2 multiplied by 12 will give us our base, and then we multiply by our depth or our height of our prism, which is going to be 11. So the end result is going to be 24 times 11, which is 264. So then the total volume is going to be 132 plus 264, which is just equal to 396 centimeters cubed. If we look at E, we have the same idea. We have a rectangular prism and then a triangular prism on top, almost like a house. So let's start out by making our triangle volume 1 and our rectangle volume 2. So volume 1 is going to be equal to 1 over 2 multiplied by our base, which is 5, multiplied by our perpendicular height, which is 4, and then multiplied by our depth, which is 7. Right, so volume 1 is going to be equal to essentially 2 times 5 times 7, and that is the same as 10 times 7, which is just going to be 70 millimeters cubed. And volume 2 is going to be equal to 5 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 7, which is just 20 times 7, and 20 times 7 is 140 millimeters cubed. So that our total volume is equal to, adding these two together, 210 millimeters cubed. Alright, let's look at F. Now the first thing we need to work out with F is that both of these shapes are identical. So we only really need to solve for one volume and then multiply our volume by 2. And then we'll just solve for this one. So this is going to be 1, this is going to be 2, and this will be V3. So V1 is going to be equal to 1 over 2 multiplied by 6 multiplied by 15 and then multiplied by our depth, which is going to be 10. And this is going to be the same as 3 times 15 times 10, and that's just 45 times 10, which is 450 millimeters cubed. Now, because our V3 is the same shape, we can also write that V3 is equal to 450 millimeters cubed. And then we just have to calculate V2, which is going to be 6 times 15 times 10. All right, so V2 is going to be equal to 900, because 6 times 15 is 90, millimeters cubed. Right, so the end result of this is that we have 2 groups of 450 and 1 group of 900, so our total is going to be 450 plus 450 plus 900, and that just equals 1800 millimeters cubed. Right, that's it for this video. Hope that was helpful, and I will see you in the next one.